Well,
of
I was
students?
very fortunate. I had when I first started my job teaching, I had a little room which I used as a student. I slept under the table in a haunted house in Leicester. It was in a Delaware Crescent with just some old people in one of the houses, and it had a ghost, and I actually left because I couldn't hack it. When they had a knock on the door, and I opened the door and nobody there, I thought I would get out of here. And then I went to Canada, and I had a studio in the university, and then I went to Germany, and when I first went there, they showed me this great big room, very dirty, with rags instead of curtains. Not at all what you think about it in Germany. He said, this is your official atelier if you take the job, and you can work day and night, and you only have to teach 2 days a week. So I took the job. So I had a marvelous studio, and I couldn't use places day and night. And then I got headhunted, and I went to another place where I didn't have a studio. So I rented a fantastic studio in a former organ factory, which was a huge building with there was a missing floor with church-like windows. It was incredibly cold, but I had an amazing amount of room, and it was very, very atmospheric. And then they built me a studio for about the equivalent of $250,000 in the castle, the grounds of a castle. And that was marvellous, because I had everything I wanted. I said, do you want a crane? And I thought the 1-ton crane would do, but they gave me an 8-ton crane. Do you want a lathe? I got a lathe, I got a bandsaw, got everything. So I was spoilt rotten for a while, and then when I came back to England, I had a rather good studio in Devon, or Botswana as I prefer to call it, until my divorce, and then I came to London and decided if I wanted to continue being a sculptor, I'd better get a studio, and that means I can't afford to live in a decent flat, so I got a shitty little flat and a rather good studio, but I have to get out of it. The disadvantage of studio is it's got top lighting, I like it a lot, but it hasn't got running water, but that doesn't really matter, you can get around that. But sculptors need places to work, you can't. I do drawing in my kitchen table. I actually make little models on the kitchen table, but you need space. And I did a very large, 3 times over life-size wooden sculpture. It took me a hell of a long time to do, and I did that with chainsaws and some other rotary things for working with wood, which is very, very noisy and very dusty. So you need a place like that. You can't do it where you live. Studios are important, and this one that Simon's had for a very, very long time is handy. It's just up the road, and I've known Simon for how many years now, Simon? 30 years?
Since I was 18. 36.
An incredible long time.
Years.
He never took my advice. When I first met him, I said, don't do sculpture, it's a bloody mug's gate.
Yeah.
He'll tell you, I was absolutely right. Anyway, Simon is going to cast this in bronze because he has a foundry, and it's going to be stripping and scraping to be able to do it because bronze is incredibly expensive. However, I want to do it in bronze if I possibly can. And you never know, might be able to sell it. You can't. You see, it's very hard to know what's going to sell. I did a sculpture called A Mighty Blow for Freedom for the Media, for me, therapy for me, and I sold 3 of them, and they're big sculptures. I also did a sculpture called Der Trommler, or The Drummer, again for me, and that was a huge success. But there we are, you can't tell. No. There are artists who live off commissions. I get 1 commission in a cycle of 15 years. Now, studios are very important. You need my studio is not like this. My studio is chaos because I'm very untidy, and psychologically I have a thing about tidying up. I can't do it. And also the chaos is necessary for me, and I keep on tripping over things. And it's dangerous, and I suppose health and safety would close it down immediately, but that's how I am. I'm too old to change now.
Michael? Comes up.
Excellent.
Battery.
Perfecto. So this is the model of a maquette of his idea I've been working on for some time now. Actually, it's not topical. It's very topical in that it's about heads being cut off by the West. But I've been working on this idea for about 3 or 4 years now. I've done a medal for the British Art Medal Society, and it's called As Ye Sow, ... and you know the rest of the saying. And it's true. We are getting these chickens coming home to the roost because of what we're doing on misguided foreign policy. And it's based on Harman Hunt's famous painting, The Light of the World. It's not a satire of Harman Hunt, because actually I rather admire Harman Hunt. I'm not religious, I am a confirmed atheist, but obviously Jesus is the centre of his painting, and all I'm doing is hopefully illustrating the hypocrisy of the West. I feel I have to do that. I've taken it on myself to do that.
Where did this passion come from for showing, or holding a mirror up to the West?
It developed very slowly. I didn't start off my life as a political artist. I don't think of myself as a political artist, but if I moved enough, I feel I have to do something about it. Otherwise, you see, a lot of contemporary art is about nothing except looking at what he does. I'm going to copy what he does. And it's about social posturing. It's a comedy of manners, basically. And it has very little import. There are 1 or 2 artists, however, do seem to deal with the real world, and I admire them. And I tend to look down on artists who spend all their time in the studio and don't look past the studio door. When you look at the history of art, it's full of references to the real world. You're talking to somebody who doesn't believe that any such thing as abstract art. I think the idea is completely misnomer. I can argue for hours why I think this is the case, but you can take my word for it. I don't think abstract art exists. I think all art is concrete. It's all to do with the nervous, reacting, your nervous system reacting to what's in front of you. If you're a real artist, if you're not a real artist, you'll ring up somebody else and get them to do it, and then sign it. No names, no factorial, but that's one of the reasons why a lot of sculpture is terrible, because they don't get what Michelangelo called pettimenti, i.e. mistakes. If you start off doing, see, I'm going to do this, he's just blocking it out, I'm going to do it, and I'll make mistakes and I'll change my mind as I'm going along. That's what happens if you do it. If you get somebody else to do it, of course, all that process is gone. And if you look at Michelangelo's carvings, you can see that he changed his mind. You see a little hand there, you thought, no, that's not good. And that is incredibly important, that...
Evidence of the artist.
Yeah, exactly. But we tend to lose that now, what with the digital age and all that stuff. Well, I'm a simple, old-fashioned, eclectic artist, which actually is a much more difficult thing to do. If you're eclectic, you have the whole history of art, you have all those artists and sculptors looking over your shoulder. If I was a conceptual artist, I wouldn't have that. Because a lot of art schools, they don't teach art history anymore, only from Duchamp onwards. So I'm one of the few people who knew or understood what Duchamp wrote on urinal. You know, he wrote Armut. It's a homophone for the German word for poverty.
Right.
Telling you something, actually.
Yes, we have. Okay.
Yeah, I have pretty straightforward ideas of what I think art is. I despise a huge amount of contemporary art. I despise it. I'm now turning into a taxi driver. you call that rubbish art? My 2-year-old daughter would do better than that. I think that now.
You think?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of it's staggering rubbish, but there is some good people. There are some good artists around, some seriously good ones, including conceptual artists. There's one German artist I know, and his work is staggeringly good. It's a concept, but it's about time travelling. And he did a piece for the German underground in Berlin on a line called U10 that was never used. It was set up before the war, but it was never used. So it was like a ghost train. And he had this rather wonderful idea of a train that's moving at 1 millimetre a day, or it might be 1 millimetre a year. But the people inside it don't know that. And it started off in 1926, not got there yet. And he did all sorts of interviewing mathematicians and doing all sorts of experiments to sort of prove that it's possible. I mean, it's all imaginary, but it's fantastic.
What was it, Einstein that did it on the train, that you're slightly younger if you stay on a train?
He might well have
I
done.
think
He might well have done. But anyway, it's an astoundingly interesting idea, done with great thoroughness and wit and imagination. So I'm not against all conceptual art, just most of it. Just most of it is rubbish.
A lot of your work is not total realism, there is.
What?
A lot of your work isn't total realism.
No,
is it? No, it's
no,
quite a lot
based
of.
on, I've slowly become more figurative,
Yeah.
because you develop exponentially, and it's like oh God, what's that? What is Darwin say? Evolution. You evolve as an artist. And it's just my bad luck. You want to do figurative art, because figurative stuff is a hell of a lot more difficult than abstract, I can assure you. You've got to get it right, because if you it screams at you if it's wrong. So let's try to get it right, which is ridiculously old-fashioned. Non-commercial.
So what is your primary priority now? What are you? Is it the story the piece is telling?
Shove my ideas down people's throats. Because
Telling the story.
yeah, that's what I want to do. And if they don't like it, you know what they can do. Because you see, there are several things in the Bible that are true, and several things are hideously dishonest and untrue. The one thing that's true, I find, is seek and ye shall find. Because that's absolutely true. The other thing is completely untrue, is that the meek shall inherit the earth. Oh no, they fucking went to boast. And it's taken me a long time to realise that. So I used to be a very sort of quiet little shy creature, but I'm not anymore. And one of the advantages of age, you think, well, fuck it, nothing to lose. If they don't like it, what are we going to do about it? I've got people who don't like my work, I've always had, and they used to say when I was younger, I'm a fascist. Well, I'm not a fascist. I've got strong opinions, it's the same. To be vehement is not the same as being a fascist. The thing is that you may thank God that I'm not the Führer.
Going back to the influence of the studio on your work, is there times when you get your commissions that you are thinking about the production just as much as the actual idea, or do you just concentrate on the idea and sort out the production issues later?
No, you've got to have the space. You can't do it if you haven't got... What some artists do, if they get a major commission, they actually rent a studio, commission a studio, they'll people offer them for sale. I was very lucky when I was in Germany, because I had a fantastic studio, which was at the room to be able to make tall as well as long sculpture. I'd get people to help me do it. Couldn't have done it without it. You do need the space. But the awful thing is, that studio was there because of the by the grace of the German government. Now I'm in London, I have to rent a studio, and they're very expensive. This one's expensive, and they get more expensive. And also the awful thing about sculpture is, what do you do with it? Nobody wants it. You have to store it.
Put it up there.
Or, yeah, well, you're lucky. I mean, in some sculpture, it costs you £500 just to move the bloody thing. And then what do you do with it? Well, I've got sculpture all over the place that I've loaned to people. And I've got a warehouse full of stuff. So you think, it's a mug's game, unless you're, you know, one or two artists who make a huge amount of money, I mean, an obscene amount of money, and then the rest of us, some of us, we have good days or, you know, fat years and lean years. A lot of artists I know just carry on doing it, and you have to admire them for their fortitude. There's too many bloody artists there. That's the next thing, far too many.
Do you like working, like in this is quite a social area, there's three of you working, or do you like working on your own?
I prefer to work on
You can be honest.
I have to work on my own if it's doing the hard bits, like thinking what it's going to be and doing the drawing. I can't draw, but doing physical stuff I don't mind. I don't know, because I've made it for years and years and years, we get on very well. But I don't like, see, people have open studios. I hate that. I want people coming around gawping.
You don't like interacting with the public? Or
No,
no.
why should I?
No.
I do the interacting through the work.
Right.
You know, I communicate through the work. If they can't see it, tough tits.
When you were at college and uni, you know, and you had your joint studios, was that intimidating? Or when you had studios when you were in education and you had do you have allocated studios?
Oh, what was intimidating? I don't understand the question.
Well, just the other people around you, or the.
Oh no! Listen, when I was in Germany, they have a fantastic system, which is the atelier system. You are the master. You know, and the students have to behave themselves. And if you don't like them, you can chuck them out. So you have tremendous power over them. So they don't get on your nerves. You know, you don't see a lot of them anyway. I had only 6 students, and for a while I had none. And when I went to Karlsruhe, I presented to the rest of the colleagues, all the hot shots of the time, like Baslitz, Marcus Lupert, and Herr Kerkeby. The rector said, "This is Michael Sandle, we are so glad to have him, we wish we had got him earlier." But, and he hasn't got a studio, but he'll get one. And the point is that we're all here to do our own work. If we teach, it's all well and good, but we're actually here to do our own work, which is fantastic.
Yeah. So you would regard teaching as just a means to enable you to do your own work?
No, actually, I like teaching.
Yeah.
Because I think I've got a lot to offer, and I'm quite good at it because I like doing it, but I stopped liking it as I got older because I was moving away from my students. I was really realising that actually they don't want to be like me. They've got their agenda. I was talking about the authority you have in the atelier system where you are the master and they are your disciples. They do what they're told. Excellent. But I found that teaching became a little bit more of a burden because I was moving away from them. And I did not want to impose my ideas on these young kids because they had their future. And I am somebody who's got one foot in the past and I've chosen that. And I was the only one in the academy in Karlsruhe that could teach life drawing because I was the only one who could actually draw. And I had a lifetime drawing, and I stopped doing it because I think I was actually hurting these people's career prospects. Because if they learned to draw properly, that would be held against them. You'd have people saying, well, that is too authoritarian, or that's too elitist. Or as one of my friends called Terry Atkinson said, what matters today is how well you draw badly. There's some truth in that. So I stopped teaching them drawing, and they knew all about Jeff Koons, but they never knew anything about Tillman Riemenschneider, even though they were living in South Germany, or Weizstoss. And I thought, well, I'm moving away from these people. So I was very glad the time came to get out. But I really enjoyed teaching.
So, I know you've heard about the new studios in the Market Hall in Douglas.
I have indeed.
Yeah, what are your ideas
Sounds
that
a
would
good
help
idea,
those to work?
Well, it sounds a good idea because the college will show to the public what they're doing, which is an excellent thing.
What suggestions do you have for the studios? What would you like to see down there in these studios at the Market Hall?
Well, I'd just like to see that the college shows the best people working so people can see what they're doing. I mean, I don't know an awful lot about it. I do know where it is. And I think it's not a bad idea.
Yeah. What about being open to the public?
I think it should be,
Yeah.
up to a point.
Yeah.
You know, you don't want to, you can't work with punter in there all the time. But maybe they should be able to look through the window, like you look at like a zoo. I get very angry. I used to get incredibly angry when I was working in the Royal Academy, setting up this sculpture, big sculpture. People came.
What would you think are the barriers to production of art? Is it the cost of studio space? Is it the cost of manufacture?
The cost is money, and it is the demoralising knowledge that somebody with no talent whatsoever is going to make a huge amount of money. And Jack here, who's a genius, can't give the stuff away. So there you are, there you have it in a nutshell.
Yeah.
The thing is, I actually, I'm going to be in an exhibition in the Science Gallery, which is Sleeping with the Enemy. Well, it's a big show, an obviously big show.
Yeah.
And the Tate wanted to borrow my sculpture, 20th Century Memorial, and they wouldn't let him have it because they said that there hadn't been enough prior notice. So I wrote to Nick Sharota about it and said, look, it's very nice to see the drummer on show in the rotunda, but you've had that 26 years before you showed it, and you got it for nothing.
So do you find that you are limited by, obviously with the funding, or
you're limited by your mindset and your. I mean, I'm handicapped by being bipolar, so I can have moments of depression. I don't want to do it. It's a complete and utter waste of time. But then I swing round to thinking, I am these great artists, and then of course you're energized. If you start hating what you do, and questioning it, you get very demoralised, and then you don't have any energy. But when you can think actually what you are doing is actually rather wonderful. You are good, and you've paid your dues. Then you do it. But there are all sorts of invisible handicaps. And also it is demoralising. I mean, I know people my age who have been artists all their lives and they're serious and they can't get a gallery and they know that all these people, the YBAs for God's sake, and creatures of the media, it is actually a sign of decadence, of course. However, I did go to a rather nice show of Reg Quayle. You actually have a lot of time for Rich. He's the Alf Garnet of the Isle of Man. But
surely, Michael, you are the Alf Garnet of the Isle.
He's his brother.
Anyway, no, but it's actually, you have to take it very seriously. They had a rather good show in Peel, which I mean the sale could have done. But they did it very well. It was an excellent typography. And I like his son. Ian is also very bright. There's an awful lot of sort of run-of-the-mill watercolourist, shall we say. I have a lot of time for watercolour, but it seems to me there's not many people.
What would you ideally like to see? You're also about museum.
I would like to see
art gallery.
more contemporary art of highest quality, modern art, shall we say, not necessarily contemporary art, shown in a purpose-built museum in Douglas, which is a great big gap, because the Isle of Man is backward culturally. I shouldn't be, I wish it wasn't, because I'm extremely fond of the Isle of Man. But it does occur to me that you're stepping into a kind of cultural desert sometimes. And like I was telling you, I keep on going on about the Boyd Gallery, because there's an awful lot going on there.
you'd like to see that model.
Well, I just think that people could learn from them. They put on 8 shows a year of contemporary artists. I don't necessarily have to agree with the choice of the artists, at least their names, and it's good that people see them. I mean, they put on a show of Bollinger. I'm not a huge fan of Bollinger, but he's around, he's there, people should know about him.
Could you say that the Isle of Man has influenced your work at all?
Yes, it very much has, yes.
In what way is it?
The landscape, the colour I use, the landscape, everything. I'm hugely influenced by the Isle of Man. A lot of the forms I use, I picked up there.
Any of the traditional colour palettes that have been used, have you used any of those?
No, I just take it from the actual colour of the sea and the gorse and the landscape, the sky. I mean, sky changes all the time now. That sort of palette is... No, the Isle of Man is enormously involved. It's a bit of luck, actually, to be there. It's the worst places. We came from Plymouth, it was bombed flat. Then you ended up in paradise, where only one bomb was dropped and it killed a frog.
So where's your fascination come from, all things military? You're very interested in
because
that.
I was born before the war and was bombed and can remember it as yesterday. If you've seen a city of ruins, it marks you forever. People forget that, you see. The people short memories. I can't get my head around it. That that's only 70 years ago. The most civilized nation in Europe went to war against us and behaved with incredible brutality and evil. And it was just astonishing. I mean, when you think how many people died, and we're now sort of exercised because 3,000 people died in 9/11. You know, we're exercised that someone gets his head cut off. 70 years ago, the Croatians murdered 1 million Serbs, and they cut their heads off, and they actually boiled them alive. 70 years ago, you know, they were actually worse than ISIS. They're Catholics.
Yeah.
So,
You can feel the passion in your work. You know, the piece that you did in Malta.
Well, I mean, it actually comes from rage.
Yes.
And I do believe in rage. It's very healthy.
Yeah, it gets things done, though.
Well, I think it's very healthy.
Yeah.
Very good for you.
Yeah.
It can be very pleasant for other people sometimes, but it's healthy. I think it's very healthy to be angry. Otherwise, you'll just say yes to everything, and you can't possibly do that. There's an awful lot to be angry about.
Yeah. Did you see any parallels with you know, I just mentioned your piece in Malta. Did you see any parallels with the Isle of Man and Malta? Or?
Oh yes, like my brother, we think he's like Onken. It reminds us of Onken for some reason or other. Yes, I'm very fond of Malta. I often think I should go and retire there. Yeah, that was the piece I'm most proud of, by the way, the Malta Siege Memorial. It took me 4 years to do, and the other thing I'm proud of, I did it for nothing. I didn't charge them a fee. I only charged expenses of £10,000 a year, which is less than a cleaning lady would get. And had I not been married to my ex-wife from hell, I would have done it for nothing, because I didn't want to take the money, because I was so proud to do it. And when I went to Malta the first time, I thought, I'll kill to do this, and I fell in love with Malta, love at first sight. The Grand Harbour is stupendous, built in the Renaissance with Turkish slave magic. They did a lot of rebuilding because it got terribly bombed. More bombs dropped in Malta in 1 month than dropped in Britain, London during the whole Battle of Britain. However, they survived, God bless them. And when I go around the Grand Harbour and I look at it, I just feel sick with pride. I did that. And I did the architecture, see, because I'm an architect in Monkey, and they never said, what do you know about architecture? So I did it myself. I had a lot of help, advice. So Hugh Casson was very supportive. Oddly enough, so was Norman Foster. And before that, was a German architect who was very, very helpful. But it was all my own idea.
It's beautiful, actually,
It's
personally.
powerful.
Yeah, very powerful.
And the bell works.
Yeah, it's very spectacular.
It was very basically, that's, we're talking about happenstance and chance. I got a letter from somebody I'd seen 30 years ago, I think, when I was in my first teaching job. This guy was a teacher trainer, and he was a bit older than me. I hadn't any idea he'd been in the war. And anyway, 30 years later, or 26 years later, I got a letter out of the blue saying that he was now president of a new veterans society called the George and Ross Highland Association, and he was the president of the Mercantile Marine Branch, and they wanted a memorial to Operation Pedestal, which was the code name for the convoy that saved Malta, and I was the man to do it. He'd followed my career. So I was interested, so I jumped at it. I'd been to Malta, went there with him, and a retired naval captain, and loved it at first sight. And I chose that site. They had two other sites in mind, I chose that as the perfect site. Fantastic lines of sight, because it used to be a gun emplacement. So, then, the first idea was rubbished by the Duke of Edinburgh. The guy, the head honcho, was Lord Lewin, who I thought hated him. He was, in fact, his military advisor. As a matter of fact, I got on the house on fire with him. Anyway, he rang me up and said, I'm afraid you've got to go back to the drawing board. The Duke doesn't like it. Which he actually, matter of fact, he did me a great favour, because it was wrong-headed. I thought it should be military, and also because Malta is so close to Africa, it should be such an African in it. So it was wrong. They didn't want it, and it would have looked completely out of place. So it was back to the drawing board, and they ended up with a neoclassical solution, which looks as though it's always been there. But, you have to be very careful, because your vanity can get in the way. Architects' vanity sometimes fucks them up. Or, like, say, Gary and the Guggenheim Boulevard. Marvellous piece of sculpture. Rubbish is a museum.
And so where are you going from now, Michael? What's on the agenda apart from this
I
piece?
was going to get, once that's done, that's it. I will do something else, but I want to do some, I'm also a printmaker. I started my career as well, and I want to do some more, but they're quite expensive too. But this is going to be very hard to do, a lot of work to be done, and I will look past that, unless somebody gives me. I did have a very good design for a memorial to Richard III. It was too big for the site, which is nonsense. They did up the site outside the horrible cathedral, which is only a cathedral since 1920. It's a horrible, ugly church. The architect who bought the big, ungainly spire shot himself. Clerk of Works went mad. So anyway, it's not going to happen.
Right.
Which is very depressing, but there we are.
Right.
You win some and you lose some. Mostly you lose some.
Right, thank you very much
All
indeed,
right.
Michael. Lovely.
Jolly
Thank
good.
you very much.